Picture this. Summer, 464 before Christ. You're standing in the ruins of your city. The name doesn't matter. Sparta conquered dozens of cities in Messenia, Laconia, and Arcadia during this period. Smoke rises from burning homes. Bodies line the streets. Your husband is somewhere in that pile of corpses. Or worse, he's been taken as a Helot, a state slave. Your children huddle behind you, silent with terror. You're 28 years old, a wife, a mother, a free woman of a proud city-state that no longer exists. Spartan soldiers stand in formation around the city's central square. 300 warriors in bronze and crimson, perfect and terrifying. You've heard the stories about Sparta. Everyone has. They're the greatest warriors in the ancient world, trained from age 7 to kill without mercy, forbidden to retreat, expected to return with their shields or on them. What you haven't heard, what nobody talks about, is what they do to the women. Not immediately. Not that day. That would be too simple, too random. What's about to happen to you is far more calculated. It's a system, a policy, a method of conquest that goes beyond killing men and burning cities. The Spartans are about to erase your culture by controlling your womb. Here's what makes this especially sinister. The Spartans didn't just conquer territory, they conquered bloodlines. They understood something that wouldn't be articulated in modern terms for 2,000 years. Cultural genocide can be achieved through forced reproduction. Kill the men, take the women, make them bear Spartan children. In 2 generations, the conquered culture vanishes not just politically, but genetically. This wasn't random cruelty. This was demographic warfare. If you believe that the documented accounts of systematic oppression in the ancient world must be examined, consider liking this video and subscribing. Your support helps unearth the darker methods of ancient empires that history books often skip. Let me show you what happened to women in Sparta's conquered territories. The system they built, the lives they destroyed, the culture they erased. This is the story of the Helot women, the invisible victims of Spartan supremacy. The first thing you need to understand about Sparta is this. It was a city built on a foundation of enslaved people. For every Spartan citizen, a Spartiate, a full warrior, there were roughly 7 Helots. State-owned slaves, mostly from conquered Messenia and Laconia. The men worked the fields. They produced all the food that allowed Spartan citizens to spend their entire lives training for war. The women? Their role was more complex, more intimate, more psychologically devastating. You're separated from your children 3 days after the conquest. Spartan officials move through the captured women, categorizing. Young women between 15 and 35 are separated into one group, older women and children into another. You scream. You fight. A Spartan soldier strikes you across the face with the flat of his sword. You fall. When you stand again, your children are gone. You never see them again. According to Plutarch, writing in the 1st century AD, but drawing from earlier sources, Spartan policy toward conquered populations was brutally efficient. Men of military age were either killed or enslaved. Children were evaluated. Strong ones might be taken for Helot service. Weak ones were abandoned. Women of childbearing age were designated as Helot breeders. Think about what that term means. Not workers, not servants. Breeders. Your primary value to the Spartan state is your uterus. Your march to Sparta. The journey takes 5 days. No shoes, minimal food. Women who can't keep pace are left behind. When you arrive, you're assigned to a kleros, a plot of land worked by Helots to support a Spartan citizen family. There are 15 other Helot women already there, and 4 Spartan men who visit regularly. Here's where the system becomes truly calculated. Spartan marriage customs were unique in the ancient Greek world. Spartan men lived in communal barracks until age 30, even after marriage. They visited their wives briefly, secretly, mostly for reproduction. But Helot women, they were available constantly. Historical sources, particularly Athenaeus writing in the 2nd century AD, record a Spartan practice called the Cryptia, a secret tradition where young Spartan warriors, as part of their training, were sent to patrol Helot territories at night. Their mission wasn't just surveillance, it was terror and control. You're working in the fields when the sun sets. You know what's coming. It happens every few weeks, always without warning. The Spartans arrive after dark. Young men, 18 to 20 years old, completing their archaeological training. They're armed with short swords. Their faces are covered. They select women. Sometimes one, sometimes several. They take them into the storage buildings, the barns, sometimes just into the darkness beyond the firelight. What happens next isn't explicitly described in ancient sources. Greek and Roman historians dance around it with euphemisms, but the archaeological evidence tells a more complete story. Excavations at Helot settlements in Messenia, particularly the work of Noel Robertson in the 1980s and more recent DNA analysis published in 2019, reveal a striking pattern. The Helot population of Sparta shows significant genetic mixing with Spartan bloodlines, but almost exclusively through female Helot lines, bearing children with Spartan fathers. Translation: Spartan men routinely impregnated Helot women, systematically, for generations. Think about what this does psychologically. You're not just enslaved. You're not just forced to work Spartan land to feed Spartan citizens. You're forced to bear Spartan children, children who will never be yours, children who belong to the state, children who will grow up to be Helots themselves, continuing the cycle. Children whose fathers are the men who killed your husband. Here's what nobody expected about this system. It wasn't chaotic. It wasn't random soldiers assaulting random women. It was organized, regulated, and had specific strategic purposes. Purpose 1, population control. By impregnating Helot women with Spartan blood, the Spartans created a mixed population that was easier to control. These children had partial Spartan heritage, but no rights. They lived in a psychological no man's land, too Spartan to fully identify with Helot rebellion, too Helot to ever be citizens. Purpose 2, genetic dilution. Within 3 generations, the conquered Messenian population had significant Spartan genetic markers. Their distinct ethnic identity was being erased biologically. Purpose 3, psychological domination. Every Helot woman who bore a Spartan child became a living reminder of conquest. Every mixed child walking through Helot villages was proof of Spartan power. You give birth to a son in the 4th year of your enslavement. You know he's Spartan. You know it from his features, lighter than yours, and from the timing 9 months after the last Cryptia visit. You try to love him. He's your child regardless of how he was conceived. But the Spartan authorities take him when he's 7 years old. They evaluate him. He's strong, well-formed. They decide he has potential. He's taken to the Agoges, the brutal Spartan training program. You're allowed to see him once briefly before he leaves. He doesn't recognize you. He's been told Helots are inferior, barely human, natural slaves. He looks at you with contempt. Think about the precision of that cruelty. They didn't just take your child. They turned your child against you, made him an instrument of the same system that enslaved you. Here's what makes this especially horrifying. This system lasted for nearly 400 years. From Sparta's conquest of Messenia in the 8th century BC until the Helot revolts and eventual liberation in the 4th century BC, generations of women lived and died in this system. Your daughter becomes a Helot breeder. Her daughter after her. Your genetic line continues, but your culture, your language, your stories, all of it erodes, generation by generation, until nothing remains but vague memories of freedom. The ancient historian Tertius, a Spartan poet writing in the 7th century BC, describes the Messenians as asses worn down by great burdens. He celebrates their conquest, their subjugation, their transformation into Helots. But he never mentions the women. None of the Spartan sources do. They're invisible. Their suffering is assumed, unremarkable, not worth documenting, which tells you everything about how normalized this system was. If this moment in history doesn't move you to question how entire populations can be erased, you might be missing the lesson about systematic oppression that ancient Greece taught the world. Let me show you how the system evolved. By the 5th century BC, Sparta's Helot population outnumbered citizens 7 to 1. The Spartans lived in constant fear of revolt, so they instituted the Cryptia as official policy. According to Plutarch, every year the ephors Sparta's elected officials would formally declare war on the Helots. This wasn't symbolic, it was legal protection. Under this annual war, any Spartan could kill any Helot without legal consequences. The Cryptia operated openly, hunting Helots at night, killing anyone who seemed strong, defiant, or capable of leadership. But the women, they were valuable. They weren't killed. They were controlled through a different kind of violence. You're 35 years old now. You've been a Helot for 11 years. You've borne 4 children. 2 died in infancy. 1 son was taken to the Agoge. 1 daughter works beside you in the fields. Your body is broken. Constant labor, multiple pregnancies, poor nutrition. You look 50. The Cryptia stopped visiting years ago. You're too old, no longer useful for breeding. There's a part of you that feels relief, and a part that feels abandoned, worthless. Here's what the sources tell us about Helot women who survived past childbearing age. They were assigned the hardest labor, grinding grain, hauling water, working the olive presses. Work that destroyed joints and backs. Their value to the state was purely economic now. No longer breeders, just workers. Most died in their 40s. A few survived to 50. Almost none reached 60. Almost none reached 60 alone. There are no Helot cemeteries, no monuments, no graves marking their names. When they died, they were burned or buried in unmarked pits, their existence erased as thoroughly as their culture. Archaeological excavations in Messenia have found mass burial sites near ancient Spartan settlements. Hundreds of bodies, mostly female, showing signs of severe physical stress, multiple pregnancies, traumatic injuries. The DNA analysis from 2019 that I mentioned earlier examined 43 skeletal remains from these sites. The findings were stunning. Every single female skeleton showed evidence of multiple childbirths. Every one. The average age at death was 42. Most showed signs of chronic malnutrition, bone stress consistent with heavy labor, and healed fractures. This wasn't random. This was the systematic result of treating women as breeding stock in labor units. Here's what haunts me most about this story. Sparta is celebrated in Western culture as the pinnacle of military excellence. Come back with your shield or on it. Molon Labe, the 300 at Thermopylae. We make movies about Spartan warriors. We admire their discipline, their courage, their unwavering commitment to the state. But we don't make movies about the Helot women. We don't celebrate their endurance, their survival, their resistance. We don't talk about the fact that Spartan military supremacy was built on the systematic sexual exploitation of conquered women. The Helots revolted multiple times. The most significant rebellion came in 464 before Christ, triggered by a massive earthquake that killed thousands of Spartans and damaged the city's defenses. Helot men seized the opportunity. They armed themselves, attacked their masters, tried to reclaim their freedom. The revolt lasted 10 years. It failed. The Spartans crushed it with overwhelming force. According to Thucydides, they executed every captured rebel. Thousands of Helot men died. And the women? They were returned to the Kleroi, returned to the fields, returned to the system. Because the system needed them. Sparta couldn't function without Helot labor. And that labor required constant replenishment, which required Helot wombs. Think about what this tells us about ancient warfare. We think of conquest in terms of battles, sieges, treaties. We study the tactics, the weapons, the famous generals. But the real conquest happened in the bodies of women. The real erasure happened in the children they were forced to bear. The real genocide happened over generations, in bedrooms and barns and fields. This wasn't collateral damage. This was the strategy. The Spartan system lasted until 371 before Christ, when the Thebans defeated Sparta at the Battle of Leuctra. The Theban general Epaminondas then invaded the Peloponnese and liberated Messenia. After nearly 400 years, the Helots were free. But here's the devastating truth. By that point, very few remembered what Messenia had been before conquest. The culture was gone. The language had been absorbed into Spartan Greek. The religious traditions had been suppressed. The ethnic identity had been diluted through generations of forced mixing. The Messenians who celebrated freedom in 371 before Christ weren't the same people who'd been conquered in the 8th century BC. They were descendants of Helots, carrying Spartan blood, speaking Spartan Greek, practicing customs that mixed conquered and conqueror. The women had done their job. They'd borne the children. And in doing so, they'd erased their own heritage. Not by choice, but erased nonetheless. Here's the question that should keep you awake at night. How many other conquered populations experienced this same systematic erasure? How many other empires used women's bodies as weapons of cultural genocide? The Romans did it throughout their empire. The Mongols did it across Asia. European colonizers did it in the Americas, Africa, Australia. The method is always the same. Kill the men, take the women, erase the culture through forced reproduction. It's one of humanity's oldest and most effective tools of conquest. And it's almost never discussed in military histories. Because military histories focus on men, the soldiers, the generals, the battles. The women are invisible. Just like the Helot women were invisible to Spartan chroniclers. We know they existed. We know they suffered. We know they bore children and worked and died. But we don't know their names. We don't know their stories. We don't know what they thought, felt, feared, or hoped. All we have is the archaeological evidence, the bones showing multiple pregnancies, the genetic markers proving systematic mixing, the burial pits filled with anonymous female remains, the silence where their voices should be. In 2019, a research team from the University of Athens published the DNA study I mentioned earlier. The lead researcher, Dr. Maria Panagiotopoulos, concluded her paper with this observation. The Helot women of Sparta represent one of history's most successful programs of demographic replacement. Through systematic reproductive coercion spanning 4 centuries, Spartan authorities effectively erased the genetic and cultural distinctiveness of the Messenian population. The efficiency of this program may have influenced later conquest strategies throughout the ancient Mediterranean. Read that again. One of history's most successful programs of demographic replacement. Successful. That's the word she used, because from the perspective of Spartan strategic objectives, it worked. The Helots were controlled. Messenia was erased. Sparta maintained supremacy for centuries. The cost was merely the bodies, minds, and souls of thousands of women. But they were Helots. They were conquered. They didn't matter. That's the logic of the system. If this exposed something you've never heard about ancient Sparta, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we're going to keep uncovering the systematic horrors that built ancient civilization. Drop a comment with your thoughts on how societies celebrate military conquest while erasing the voices of conquered women. I'll see you in the next investigation.